Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We are continuing tonight with part 3 of our look through the 70 major sins of Islam and seeing what relevance they have today. We're going to be looking at one sin in particular, which is gambling, which is why we'll also be having a talk about our good friend Hamza from Hamza's Den. Helping me tonight is Mr. Stop Spamming and Ihsan of Evolution Facts. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hello.
Having us on again.
Yeah, third part of the major sins, and it's really fortunate how they keep falling on areas where the kings of Dawa, certainly in the UK, seem to be breaking these sins or indulging in these sins, should I say. And we've got another fortunate lineup here tonight, which we're going to start with, which is Hamza Myatt. Now, a couple of months ago, just before Ramadan, he started with a super grift by asking for £25,000 initially to cover his personal debts. Now, this wasn't the usual fundraising type of nonsense they'll do where they'll say, oh, I'm building a masjid or something like that. This was purely for personal debt. And I did a video at the time on my main channel, and Ihsan and I have talked about this previously as well. But there was a follow-up video that Hamza did when he got a massive backlash, including from his own fans. And I just want to play a few minutes of this tonight because it just highlights the fact that this guy is essentially gambling with other people's money. And so I therefore still think it's kind of a sin of gambling. And there's also, in my mind, some suggestion that he might have been a bit of a gambler himself, and maybe this is how he's got into it. But we'll sort of look into those details as we go. Does anyone want to give their thoughts about Hamza before we start, or any other thing you want to talk about before we get going, gents?
Well, I think he's generally a very dishonest guy. The thing is that he always says, yeah, come and talk to me. And then if you do and you know something about Islam and you are not praising it, he immediately cuts you off. He goes, makes videos and says, okay, here we go. Everything makes sense. You can't have anything come out of nothing. Nothing can come out of nothing. Nothing can come out of nothing. Nothing can come out of nothing. Then you carry on a bit, and then he says, well, what is the universe made from? Well, out of nothing. So he constantly contradicts himself. He has very little knowledge about Islam. He hardly knows the Quran. He's just following a script which was somehow created for him by Adnan Rashid, by Hamza Myatt and Muhammad Tijab, Ali Dawa, and people like that. And he just repeats the stuff. He has no clue what he's doing, and yet he has a huge, big mouth, and then he has the audacity to say, give me money and I will talk nicely to you during my breakfast show while I am eating. I mean,
that is a particularly egregious thing about his Sunday streams and all the sort of stuff he does except for the arena. The constant just sitting there eating. Like, we really need to watch that. He's bad enough as it is, but he's got so little respect for his audience that he's just stuffing his face with cakes and whatnot.
He said that as a consequence of his debt, that he had to start working on Sundays and give up his Sunday stream, as in working in the shop instead of doing his Sunday stream. And his comments were people like, so what, all you ever did was stuff your face while talking shit. So what have you lost?
So all in all, not a pleasant fellow.
Yeah,
no,
I've grown to really dislike him. The way he talks. I've watched some of the arena, and the arena has really dropped in quality because people just don't want to waste their time.
I mean, it was never good quality, was it? I mean, so it's already dropping from a low bar. But yeah. I agree. But the thing is, any challenge he gets from whether they're Christians, atheists, or even unorthodox Muslims, he just shuts them down so quickly now. He'll have 4 or 5 guys. They all interrupt. And this was always a tactic that they used. But they are so bad with it now that as soon as he gets pushed into a corner, it's boom, you're done. And it's not entertaining. I don't even think Muslims want to listen to that. They at least want to listen to the argument. But he just cuts them off. So just to answer Johnny Ayub, is Rob still around? Rob still is around. And he will be here next week, I believe, but he's unable to join us tonight. He's only free on certain Fridays, so he's not going to be here for every episode. But every episode he might be available. I will desperately try and get him on because we love Rob, hopefully he will be here next Friday. So I'm sorry, you'll have to just deal with me, Stops and Lisan, but I think we've got a pretty damn good crew here. So this should also be on TikTok, large audience. It's funny you should mention that, actually, because I might be having discussions with Stops about alternative media platforms, but I'll give any updates on that when I know.
Well, TikTok is a mixed bag. I tried TikTok really seriously, okay? The first time I went on, I had 17,000 views. At the first time, all right? This was absolutely crazy. And I got banned for a week because the people were reporting me because I was anti-Islam. And they were making shit, okay? And this then, because I was banned, this sort of cast a shadow over my entire channel. I never got back to that. The only thing what happened is as soon as I went live, they must have put a marker on me, because as soon as I came on, a lot of Muslims came in and they absolutely fried me, but only with ad hominems. Just your nose is too big, your hair is too white, you're this and this. No clue, anything, nothing, tangible or anything. No, it's
so
just,
real fucking
you're
high
an
quality
idiot, you're
stuff.
an idiot.
Yeah.
So, and all the shouting and all this stuff, it put me off. Because I went a couple of times and I really seriously made an effort. Every Friday, I went on, and because Thursdays we have Atheism TV, and then on Friday I thought, let me go on TikTok, and I did this for like 6 weeks, and then I had enough and I just left it because it was.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about TikTok because I think it's just I don't know. Again, it encourages the kind of the worst in people, I think. I mean, you can say that about a lot of platforms, but look, at least when we do a long form conversation like this, and we allow people to, we put up comments and stuff like that, I think is a bit more of a mature platform, if you want to sort of use that term.
Call it intellectually stimulating.
Yeah, well, we like to have a laugh as well, and with that in mind, I think
I'm making fun of myself.
Sure. No, you've got the knowledge, Stop, so don't be too harsh on yourself. But look, let's get into this video anyway. And let's see Hamza. So this is Hamza after having been absolutely ripped about essentially e-begging to clear his personal debts. This is him trying to explain himself. And just a tiny bit of context before we start. There's another Muslim YouTuber called Uncle Omar, I think, who was really criticizing him, and he did a really stinging video against Hamza. Where we're starting in this video is it's kind of him responding to Uncle Omar and kind of saying he was the one who encouraged him to do this GoFundMe, apparently, just to give you the context, because we're kind of starting mid-sentence. Anyway, without further ado, let's play Hamza's gambling den.
He's the one who told me to raise what I was asking. I was going to ask for 20 because I felt shy, and he said ask for 30. And I said no, I'll just do half. I'll make it in the middle.
Yeah, so that, just to say, that was really nice of him. He only asked for £25,000 of other people's money, but I love that idea that Hamza is shy. Does anyone think that Hamza's shy? He's just too, he's just a little quiet church mouse that would never ask for money except for the 50 million previous GoFundMes that he's done. I just think that's fucking hilarious, to be honest.
And modest, so modest.
Oh, he is. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, son. Did you want to cut in there, mate?
Because Chris at Speaker's Corner did a takedown of Hamza and his debt, and saying things like Hamza saying he needed to travel to meet suppliers to pay his suppliers.
Oh, we'll get into this. This goes into this. So, I know the video you're talking about, Chris at Speaker's Corner. It was good. This actually covers some of that, and one of the reasons why I wanted to play it. So maybe we can just. Sure. Spin on a bit, and I'm sure we'll get to that, Hassan. But I mean, say what you wanted to say, but I'm just saying it will get covered in the video.
Yeah, we'll chat about it later.
Okay, all
right. Chris wasn't spared. Chris got called fat Liverpool guy. Yeah. Okay. And it's very easy to get into debt. It's not difficult. You don't have to be gambling or drinking or womanizing or anything like that to get into debt. SubhanAllah, half of my debt is wholesalers.
Sorry, I'm just going to stop it there. This is quite a short video. If it's so easy to get into debt, does this mean that Islam, this perfect system that's supposed to get rid of all social problems, which is what this man claims every time he goes down Speaker's Corner, actually, there's still going to be loads of people getting in debt and all the social problems that comes from that. So why is Islam not fixing this problem? I think that's a reasonable question.
For my business,
why is it easy to get out of debt? I'm not in debt.
Well, no, neither am I. But well, again, this is something else because it kind of shows that he really does seem to have brought this whole thing on himself. It's not like he had some tragedy or something, but we'll get into it.
Been chasing my tail for the past 10, 15 years. Alhamdulillah. And this is a means. Well, you know, if I was going to ask for 50 to clear my debt, that means I'm not prepared to work. But I know I can.
Yeah. First of all, I think this thing ended up raising 70,000 before he closed it. So forget 50, 70,000. Secondly, him saying like, oh, well, that would mean I'm not prepared to work. He's not prepared to work. He's declared on his own channel he's no longer going down to Speaker's Corner. He doesn't want to work Sundays, which is part of the reason he's in his little shop, which is part of the reason that he's begging for this money. And all he does is Arena once a week, and then just does little live streams where he's fucking about eating, like we were talking about. That's it. That's all he does now for 400,000 subscribers. This is the entertainment he's providing. This is the Dawa services.
Yeah.
So,
if you ever catch his shop lives, it's like, you know, for the whole afternoon, or for you might only get like 5 customers just coming in buying these scarves. And he's actually, if you listen to him, he can be quite rude to some of the customers. Like, you know, a woman wanted to try on a couple, and he was just like, oh, you know, just be quick and just choose one. You know, and it's no wonder they don't come back.
Hang on a minute. You mean this pious Muslim was being rude to a woman? I thought, you know, women were treated like goddesses. Apparently, when it comes to money, he returns to his you know.
Yeah. And this is like a dreadful businessman if he's got all these debts.
Well, this is the key thing, son. You hit a key point. Bear in mind, what did he say? He's been robbing Peter to pay Paul, which for those who don't know is an English expression meaning that you're taking money from one source and paying off another, you know, just taking up one debt to pay another. He says he's doing it for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
So what the hell good, if you've been a failure as a businessman for 10 to 15 years, how are you not going to be asking for another 50 grand in 12 months time?
Exactly.
Because like you obviously are a shit businessman if you've been in debt for 15 years. I'm sorry.
He's like, I'm just thinking, it's like, you know, if he's selling hijabs, and I'm like, you know, imagine hijab might cost about £3, and, you know, Muslim women might have about 5. And because of, you know, you put them in the wash for laundry to use another time. You know, it's not like something that you go and buy a new hijab every week.
Yeah, you'd think you diversify a little bit, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a businessman myself, but it just common sense suggests that, yeah, this is not a great business model, is it? Anyway, let's spin on.
Pay off the wholesalers, and I can work things around, and I can, inshallah, I'm confident by the end of the year, half of it is business debt. It's not all business debt, but majority is, I'd say 3/4 of it is business debt. But that's business debt incurred paying off personal debts from the past. So it's
right. So if it's business debt that is come about because you were paying off personal debt, essentially this is all personal debt then, effectively, isn't it? Because that's what caused the business debt in the first place. So just terrible. Just your personal irresponsibility. Other Muslims are expected to pay for it. Fucking cheap.
How do you get into that much personal debt?
Well, he never explains, Stops. This is the thing. He just gives these vague things about, well, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and well, that's it. That's basically all I've really heard him say. Now I think about it, that one sentence. He's never really gone into detail about why he's such a terrible businessman. But hang
on. The businessman I can understand. If he says I need to pay off wholesalers, that means he is buying stuff, and then he's selling it, but he's using the money from the sales for his personal use without putting any money back for the purpose of restocking, which, you know, any businessman should know. He doesn't seem to know that. And then all of a sudden he says, oh dear, I haven't got money to buy more stock. So then he goes into debt. So this I can understand. So that's him just being an idiot. But the second thing is, then he must be living a life in luxury at the same time that he doesn't have the money to go into personal debt.
Well, we're going to get into that because your instinct is correct there, Stops, and we'll get a few details of that as we go forward. So let's spin on.
He expanded his shop or something. He moved into a bigger shop, which, you know, it was like completely the wrong thing to do. He must be paying a lot more rent.
Why would you do that if you're already in debt and you can't shift the stock that you've got? That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly, yeah.
Anyways, all right, let's play on a bit.
Like robbing Peter to pay Paul each time. Do you get me? So this time, now this is the irony, and this could be really bad, and people are going to look at me and think, Hamza, is this what the money was for? because I'm going to be in Turkey, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, potentially Riyadh in 2 weeks' time.
Are you kidding me?
No, we're not.
He
Stops. He essentially raised this money to do a 5 or 6 country Middle Eastern tour as a holiday. That is basically, he claims it's for business reasons, but when you listen to the business reasons, none of the stuff he actually needed to travel for. And he posted pictures of himself in like these nice restaurants with these big meals, or him playing golf with his mate in Qatar or some fucking thing. And he's basically just having a holiday immediately after raising more than 50 grand that was supposed to clear his personal debts. And then he wonders why he's had such a backlash. It's just ridiculous.
Is he going by donkey or flying carpet or something? Haven't you heard of the internet?
Another great question, Stops. I wonder if you must be psychic or something, because his method of transport is an issue, which we'll touch on in the video. Isan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, because he did these. He did this tour, and he was saying like, oh, he needs to go to Turkey to pay a supplier instead of like wiring money. And he says he's traveling to somewhere else to inspect new hijabs. Well, you know, why do you need to travel? You can like see pictures of it. You don't need to like feel every single cloth with your fingers.
It's 2021.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else.
Doing one of my round the Gulf in 7 days, if you like. I'm going to go to Turkey because now I've got money to go and give to my wholesaler there, so I can order scarves for Ramadan.
Yeah, because you can't just... Turkey has got no online transactions to receive money, have they? So that needs a trip.
Then I'm going to go to Bahrain to meet Ben and drop off some money that I owe him.
Again, because Bahrain, you can't send money. You can't send money to someone in Bahrain. You got to go and meet them and have a nice little holiday. What's next, Hamza?
Then I'm going to go from Bahrain to Qatar just to connect to my sheikhs and just to refresh my residence permit. From there.
Oh right, so he's got a residence permit in Qatar. Okay, so that's interesting. So he's just going to pop in there to. What's he doing? Building a property there? Is this where some of this money's going?
He's buying a property.
Yeah, he's buying a property. So there you go.
He might have already put some money down for it.
Well, fucking hell. I mean, if you can raise 50 grand even before Ramadan starts from your sucker patrons or whatever, then hell, I mean, why not build a property in Qatar? Right. So what else are you doing, Hamza?
I'm going to jump to Kuwait to order my scarves again for Ramadan.
Again, Kuwait. You know, apparently it's like the 19th century in Kuwait, and you can't do any of this shit on the internet. No, you're going to go travel there to get your scarves.
And from there, I'm going to jump to Riyadh, inshallah, to meet the brother there who's maybe got someone to help sort out the merchandise for Hamza's den.
Maybe. So he doesn't even know for this guy. Again, you can't do this on the phone. You can't do this over the internet, over Skype. He's going to go to Riyadh for someone who might have some bullshit merchandise he's going to sell for Hamza's den. Brilliant. And
so he's selling stuff on the net from Hamza's den?
Well, yeah, you know, it'll be a YouTube channel merchandise, I'm presuming, you know. So
yeah, but he's making money from this.
Well, yeah, presumably. Yeah, but this is why it stops. This is why I'm putting this in the gambling. To be honest, I could have waited till next week when we get onto stealing, because I think it's just as appropriate what he's doing. But this is why I'm saying that this is like gambling. He's gambling with other people's money. Basically, you give him money and you hope the fact that he's not just using it to have a jolly up around the Middle East. I mean, he's appalling. He's got no fucking shame.
True. I mean, sorry, when you look in his comments, so where people just say, people put comments down saying you should be ashamed of yourself sometimes, and he doesn't justify it. He replies with a laughing emoji.
Oh yeah, he just insults them further, doesn't he? Or just like says I'm not listening or whatever. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Let's carry on.
Alhamdulillah. So this is my so people go, oh look, he's going holidaying again. Nah, it's all connected. It's all part and parcel of me preparing for my for Ramadan stockwise. And that
which you could do at home. So this is a holiday, you fucking liar, basically. Sorry, I'm gonna carry on.
By doing that will help me alleviate, so the money into the business for Ramadan will alleviate the balance, inshallah. Yeah, so my plan is I'm going to fly to...
What is talking about how does him going to Bahrain or Kuwait increase his sales in London?
It doesn't stop, but it gives him a lovely holiday in the sunshine where he can put his feet up in a nice expensive hotel. Oh dear. How is this helping him clear his personal debt as well? He said that this was also about personal debt. He hasn't said what the debt is or how he's going to clear it when he's jumping on a plane and going around the Middle East.
Yeah. The only thing is, I did hear he might have had a backer somewhere in one of those countries, and I don't know whether he's just gone to there to grovel for more money or something.
Well, if he's got that, why doesn't he just go there and ask for money? Or again, use the internet. This brilliant new discovery we've got.
Istanbul. From Istanbul, fly to Bahrain, spend the night in Bahrain, spend the day with brother Ben and possibly Farid, and then fly to Qatar, spend 2 days in Qatar because it's going to be Kuwait National Day and my wholesalers is closed. Then go to Kuwait, do a day.
So he decides to travel on a day when his wholesaler is closed even. So he has to spend 2 days in Qatar. So at least one day it's just going to be you doing absolutely nothing. So again, every time he talks, the details get worse and worse on it.
Kuwait, visit my scarf wholesalers, order the stuff, and then on to Riyadh. Forest Dweller, he wanted to move to Qatar too and makes a GoFundMe multiple times. He should have used the last GoFundMe, the 6K one, to try and get out of debt. Yeah, 6K is going to get you out of 50K, isn't it?
I love the way he dismisses that. He with a laugh, like 6K. So he scammed 6K out of it. I mean, if I raised 6K out of my audience, I would be like on my knees thanking them for their generosity. He's like, yeah, 6K. That means nothing. That was a previous scam I was running. What are you bringing that up for? I mean, he's so obnoxious, this guy. Sorry. but it just shows he's getting called out even by his own commenters in his live stream. And they're highlighting the fact that he's pretending this is some one-off while they're talking about previous GoFundMes that he's done. And there's been a few.
And he's right. Why doesn't he take the 6K and put it towards the debt that he already has? So he could have paid off 10%.
Well, he's probably spent it on a previous trip to the Middle East, which he's going to go into in a bit because it gets even worse.
Don't worry about it. Nitro Z. I always say as well, you don't have to support me. It's your business. You know, are you going to go launch a GoFundMe with that trip? No. This is all sorted. Do you get me? Alhamdulillah. So this enables me to get the first plan in action. Like I said, I was only going to try to aim for 20 because I felt shy. It was Bro Haji who said you should ask for 30. And I'm like, no, I'll just go for the half, inshallah.
So humble.
Half
so,
of 50 is 20?
20, no, halfway between 20 and 30. So he asked.
Is that what he's talking about? Okay.
He asked for 25 initially to clear a 50 grand debt. Raised 70, but I think he's still in debt apparently, even though he raised more than what his actual debt was.
Did he buy Speaker's Corner?
No, he doesn't go to. That's beneath him now. Stops. He doesn't go to Speaker's Corner anymore. So no, but yeah. I'm sure he got like a limo down there every week. You know.
Yeah. So I think he's got a sign. I saw a picture of him in Speaker's Corner with a new sign. He's basically it just says, "Christians, why do you trust Paul?" Because that's all he's got at the moment. All
Has he been down there recently?
I've seen the picture maybe a few weeks ago of him in there with that sign.
Because I saw people talking on his YouTube channel saying, "Oh no, he's not going down Speaker's Corner anymore." So I was thinking, well, what the hell was the point of this guy now? I mean, that was literally all he used to do. But no, that's interesting. Maybe he's realised that he'll become completely irrelevant if he doesn't go down Speaker's Corner.
Yeah. I think he's writing a book or something on Paul.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, but you know what's funny about that, right? I don't think he shows it in this video, but the actual text of his GoFundMe has got so many like grammatical errors, spelling errors, and stuff like that. So even when he's e-begging, he can't like be bothered to write a proper GoFundMe. And this guy's going to write a book. I mean, can't even spell.
Dear AI, write a book for me.
Yeah. Be easy enough, wouldn't it? All right, let's spin on a bit. We've got a little bit more of this.
Am I flying the economy? Yeah. I'm flying from UK to Istanbul to you don't fly these flights first class. So anyway, so that's what.
Yeah, I think he ended up flying business class, didn't
Yeah,
he? Or at least
yeah.
he did. Yeah. So no, you can't do first class. You go for something even more expensive.
And the thing is, you see, I only do this. I only need to do this particular one once. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be a GoFundMe coming in Ramadan for the masjid again. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, of course there is. And, right, and you know what this masjid is? It's one that's supposed to be based in London, which he wants to get an office in. So this again is another personal e-begging thing, and he started doing it 2 years ago. So I remember doing a video on it on my main channel, where he was asking for 20 grand or something, saying, "Oh yeah, I need a new office in the masjid and everything," and he's still raising money for that 3 years later. So again, where does all this money go? It's a fucking, this is like money laundering or something. I don't know.
About that, I'm not going to be shy about doing GoFundMe, but
yeah, no shit, you're not.
personally, I think this is the first one that I've done exclusively for me. I think everything else has been. Oh, actually, no, I did a loan one, didn't I, ages ago, but that was loans.
Yeah, did you pay back those loans? But I love the way he immediately qualifies that. This is the first one he's done for me. Oh, except that last one that I did for me. It's just terrible.
I think this is the exclusive GoFundMe I've done for me. I've done it for the masjid. I did it for Brother Carter. I did it for to go to for the dawah, to go to Qatar for the dawah. I think.
Yeah, this is the bit I want to say. He said to do the dawah in Qatar. What he actually means is, and Islam knows this, he went to the World Cup, the last World Cup in Qatar, and he honestly thinks that he's going to do dawah in a country which is 50% Muslim, and the other 50% are basically foreigners visiting there for the World Cup. And you really think you're going to convert people who are half pissed watching football to join Islam? I mean, he really thinks that was happening. Like hell, he went there because he wanted to watch the football. There was no dawah going on, and this was back in 2022. So it's less than actually December 2022, wasn't it? Because it was a winter one. So that's less than 2.5 years ago. He was already funding his own holiday, pretending that it was for dawah.
Well, he just copied the era. They were doing that. They were flying off to Formula One races, to football matches, to all sorts of things. Exactly the same thing.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
This is the only one I've done, I believe, personally, just for me. And this is the thing that I need to. I know once I accomplish this, alhamdulillah, I won't need to do this again. Yeah.
All right. Should we take a poll? I'm tempted to do a poll. When do you think the next GoFundMe will be from Hamza? Because it will definitely be this year. This is bullshit. He's never going to need to do this again. If it's not within the next 6 months, I will be absolutely shocked.
He'll probably just extend this one, just raise the debt ceiling more and more, and say, "Oh, it's still the same fundraiser."
Well, he kind of already did. I think he was forced by Shane to shut it down once it got to nearly 3 times what he was originally asking for, and he was still collecting money on it.
Oh, but he's so shy.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's so shy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
He's so humble.
Like I say, Iram, it's very, very simple. Look, if you don't like me, don't donate. If you don't like what I do, you don't like my mannerism, don't donate. If you don't think money should be given to dawahs, and you should really send it to the sisters and the brothers in Gaza or Pakistan or Kashmir or Yemen, then do so.
The money should go to anybody else on earth apart from you, quite frankly, is more deserving. There are serial killers who probably deserve the money more than you do, Hamza.
I don't mind. It's not for everybody. If it was for everybody, we would have smashed this target by now. I don't mind. I don't get upset. Why are you not giving me money?
Oh, he doesn't mind if you don't fall for his emotional blackmail, as fellow Muslims. He doesn't mind. He's so humble. He's so magnanimous there.
It's for you. It's my.
It's for you. How'd you figure that, Hamza?
Personal debt that I need help with. And don't get me wrong, there is beneficiaries that come along with it, because inshallah, it will free me up more. And the plan is, if I can raise this 25 grand, I think by January 2026, I'll have paid off the other 25 grand. So I won't have any debt, inshallah, which frees me up going forward. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, God, how many times are going to say Alhamdulillah? It's not the only thing he knows in Arabic. But yeah, like if that's going to free you up, how come you've been in debt for 15 years then? Because if you're still a rubbish businessman, you're still going to be in debt. You'll just be starting from a smaller level. So this is all nonsense. Like, this is going to be the last one. Unbelievable. So we just got another few seconds of this and then we'll be done.
To do other stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, that was it. Sorry, big pardon. I should. Anyway, so yeah, Hamza's gambling then. You know, apparently it's okay for him to gamble with your money, because the reason I say it's a gamble is he claims it's for one thing and then immediately spends it on another. So it's certainly a gamble giving him any of his cash. And there has also been suggestions I've seen in his comments section about whether he actually has a gambling problem himself, which I think is quite interesting. But gents, what did you think about that marvelous display of humble magnanimousness from Hamza there?
Okay, I find it disgusting.
Yeah, I just see he's clueless. I mean, either he's just totally incapable of detecting of reading the room or picking up on the attitude of people who are commenting on his videos. You know, either he's capable of that, you know, or he is deliberately trolling them, because he's just making the situation worse for himself.
Yeah, he's showing total disdain towards all his supporters, really.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, look, we I think we've done stuff because it's over half hour. I didn't think we would spend that long on this, so which is probably my fault for keep stopping it. So I apologise. But we are going to get into the main part of the topic tonight, which is the 70 sins. Carrying on. So with a focus on the gambling, we've got today's hadith of the week. So let me just bring that up. Right, I hope people can read that. So this is Ibn Majah. It was narrated from Abu Huraira that the Messenger of Allah said, "Whoever enters a horse in a race between two other horses, not knowing whether it will win, that is not gambling. But whoever enters a horse in a race between two other horses that's certain that it will win, that is gambling." Right, now how does that make any sense as a hadith? Because that first sentence says whoever enters a horse in a race where it doesn't know whether it will win. Surely that's the definition of what gambling is. You enter a horse not knowing if it will win or not, and that's what you're doing. And apparently, according to this hadith, that's not gambling. Can you make any sense of this, Hassan?
No, it reminds me of, what was it, Eric Cantona's quote about the seagulls and the trawler, where which just, you know, it makes as much sense as this. I'm trying to think that, okay, whoever enters a horse in a race between two other horses, not knowing whether it will win. Well, actually, the first one is gambling, even though it says it's not gambling, because you don't know if it's going to win. If you're certain it will win, that's not gambling. So have they got it the wrong way around?
No, I don't know. I mean, it is, to be honest, doing any kind of horse racing, I would, whether because if you do know it's going to win, then surely that is just just a rigged gambling event. But it's still gambling. Sorry, just for everyone, I don't know what's happening with Stops here. He's back. There he is. He's back. Stops, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was out for some reason.
Yeah, I did try to bring you back in again. Did you miss the whole hadith that I read out, or?
Well, I can see it in front of me now.
Yeah, it basically doesn't make sense. It's basically it's saying that if you enter a horse into a race and you're not sure if it'll win, that's not gambling, which to me is the definition of gambling. And then it says, but if you know it's going to win, in other words, it's a rigged game, then that counts as gambling. It's completely incoherent, as so much of the hadith literature is. I don't know if anyone can make sense. Nick says, remember when I went on and took the Shahada to troll him? Not sure what you're talking about there, Nick, but yeah, so sorry. So yeah, that's the hadith of the week anyway, just incoherent babbling, which I always love. So shall we move on, gentlemen, to the 70 major sins of Islam, part 3? Are we ready?
Cool. Let's go.
Rightio. Now, before we get in there, I just want to, we've had a bit of a change of the point system for this. So we're keeping it the same for if we agree that a sin is criminal or illegal, we're going to award 1 point. If we think it's immoral or unethical, but not something that should be a crime, we'll give it half a point. We have a new category here worth a quarter of a point, which came up with last week because things are a bit more complicated. So if something is possibly immoral, then we might give it a quarter point. And I'm not just talking about edge cases here. I'm talking about, if you could make a reasonable argument that something could be considered immoral or not immoral, and it's not just some really weird fringe case, some crazy kind of confluence of circumstances. And then, as before, 0 points if we don't consider it to be an immoral issue. So that's a slight update to the point system. And just a quick review of where Islam stands. So the first week, these were the 7 sins, and Islam got 1 point for murder. The rest were all considered not immoral, most of them relating to the 5 pillars of Islam. And then last week, Islam did a little bit better. Oh, I went too far. Damn it. I thought it was so slick here, no tech problems. Yeah, so last week it was disrespecting parents, shunning relatives, fornication, adultery. They all picked up 1.25 points respectively, and 1 for consuming orphans' property. So Islam did a little bit better last week and picked up 2.25 out of a total of 7, which means this is how they've done so far. 3.25 points out of 14. So the relevance of Islamic morality so far is 23.21%. So this is where Islam stands. It's actually higher than I thought it was going to be so far, but we'll see how tonight's score will affect it. I'm going to now just have to share my screen, so bear with me 1 second. And if either of you wants to say something funny just while I'm getting the details up, that would be good.
It's not funny. I think it's actually quite sad that an ideology that is being touted as the most moral and the most advanced and the most this and blah, 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 is doing so poorly, really. I remember the Gin Tonic show, like 10 years ago. We did a show showing only the positives. Really, we really tried. And we also came up with like 4 or 5 things, and the rest was all negative. And I was actually surprised at how few positives there were. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't have it in the right place. Let me... dear. I'm going backwards now. I was a bit more professional with this last week, but let me just... No, we've done that one, so...
Are you blonde? You've forgotten everything?
Well, I was going to put all this stuff as one continued screenshot instead of going to the PDF. But I just did, once again, I didn't have time. So apologies, everyone. But we'll proceed now.
We are not. Come on, this is our hobby. We don't get paid for this. This is not something that we are doing as a job, as a profession. This is just us, fart-assing around, making fun of things. So there's no expectancy.
Well, I see it as a bit more than just fart-assing around stuff. I think it's an interesting topic. But anyway, so we are now 38 minutes into the show, so let's actually get to the main topic. Right. So
sorry, son, that's it. You've tried. That's it.
Right. We're going to go to number 15, which is fleeing from the battlefield. So this is when the enemy is not more than twice as many as the Muslims. An exception is made for withdrawing to rejoin the fight elsewhere or to support another group, even if far away. Allah Almighty says, anyone who turns his back on them that day, except withdrawing to rejoin the fight or withdrawing to support another group, brings Allah's anger down upon himself. His refuge is hell. What an evil destination. And that's Quran 8:16. So, who wants to start? Do you think fleeing from a battle should be considered a sin or not?
Well, I mean, it is classed as cowardice in, even in non-religious armies and stuff. And used to be shot at dawn in the First World War if you did it. So, I can understand where they're coming from here.
Yeah, I would actually agree, because this one is one of the more interesting ones, because if you look, you can make a perfectly reasonable non-religious argument for the fact is if you are in a battle, particularly if you are defending your homeland or something, then you do have a moral duty to the soldiers around you, number one, because if you flee, they're that much more likely to die. and number two for maybe the civilians that you might be protecting of your society. So I actually think, and also if you look back, I mean, for example, I think it's pretty standard in military law to either, well, I mean, previously people used to be shot for it, didn't they? I'm not sure that's the case now, but certainly you can be court-martialed, can't you? Because it is considered a serious crime. So I think I would actually give this a point, because I think as long as you can say, you know, this battle is legitimate, and you're not being led into some suicide mission by some insane military commander. The only exception is the fact that, okay, if there's a justifiable retreat, but then I suppose your commander would do that. So I think this is particularly about desertion, isn't it? It's particularly about running in terms of cowardice, and I think in those terms I'd want to give it a point. So I actually agree with Islam on this one.
It does say it's when the enemy is not more than twice as many. So I suppose, you know, you could probably flee if you realise you're completely outnumbered. Maybe that's
and there's no hope, and you need to do like a tactical retreat to a more easily defendable position or something like that. Yeah. What do you think, Stops? You think this is a sin or immoral?
I'm too much of a pacifist.
So basically, you're saying you'd be the first one to flee from the battlefield then?
Absolutely.
See, this is why I'm glad we got three. This is why you need three people for this, because some of these are going to be hard to get a majority on. So, so what, you don't think there's? I mean, are you a literal pacifist then? Stops. You can't think of any reason that you would go to war. You know, not even to defeat the Nazis or something.
No, not go to war. I would definitely defend, you know, personally, family, of course, but fighting for country. I'm not a patriot. Why would I fight for a country? Why
because
would I go to war against another nation?
If the country falls, you and your family fall with it. That's why.
Okay, but what is the point? Look at the Ukraine. Do you think the Ukraine has a long-term chance withstanding Russia? No, they don't. So they're being propped up at the moment by Europe, and it's a crying shame if they really were to stop. But I must admit, I'm too much of a coward or pacifist or whatever you want to call it. But I would want to be the first one to die and get out of the situation, because I'm not one to go. I don't know, even if it were a Russian, even if it were a Nazi, I would be hard pressed to kill another human being.
Well, I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, I don't think even for the most justified reasons, taking somebody else's life is a very inhuman thing to do, even if it's necessary. So I don't think anyone but a psychopath is really going to enjoy taking a life. But I think in those circumstances it is necessary. And this is why I can't get on board the pacifist train, because I think as Sam Harris says, it's like if you do that, then essentially you leave the world to be run by the psychopaths. Now, some people might argue that's already the case, but I think I mean, because the Nazis are not going to respect pacifism. That just means that they'll conquer the land quicker. So I think that I think that pacifism is kind of a bit of a dead end, morally speaking, even though I can understand anti-war sentiment and not wanting to do something unless it's absolutely necessary. So I would still say in that context, I'm going to stick with my 1 point on this. Okay,
so I'm overruled and I accept it. I know that mine is the stance of a coward. It's somebody who does not want to get involved in this and actually accepts the consequences of being overrun by exactly what you are saying, psychopaths. Absolutely. But the thing is, to go into a fight when I'm outnumbered 2-1, not more than 2-1. Okay, so if it's 1.8 to 1, like what we have in Ukraine and Russia, I mean, they put up a valiant fight, but in the long run, what is it going to give the Ukraine? If I look at the exact example that I've got like outside my doorstep, and I'm seeing the situation there, and I think it's a crying shame that this asshole Putin is just, he gets up in the morning and thinks, oh, I should have Ukraine today, and he goes in and he kills people, he destroys entire villages, the entire being for hundreds and thousands of people, and Well, actually, now that I'm hearing myself talk, I would say I would go and fight.
Have you persuaded yourself into changing your mind now?
Yeah, I think so. But okay, from a moral point of view, I reject the fight. But I think I would be able to be persuaded to change my mind if really push comes to shove.
I mean, I do echo the sentiment of a lot of what you're saying. I mean, intrinsically, I'm anti-conflict, I'm anti-violence. Excuse me. It would want to be the last thing I'd ever want to do. I don't consider myself to be some like big brave patriot soldier that's just going to run into the battlefield. No, I would want to look for any other way to be able to resolve something. But I do acknowledge that there are just some times you gotta fight. It is the nature of it. I mean, my own country's history. I mean, if we didn't have those air pilots at the Battle of Britain defending the islands, then we would have been occupied by the Nazis, no doubt. And as bad as you could argue the British Empire is, we weren't as bad as the freaking Nazis, and it was important to fight that fight. And so I just think there are occasions when you have to pick up a gun or a stick or whatever.
Okay, that's true, and that's a very good example actually, because the UK or Britain at that point was outnumbered, and they didn't have as much, I don't know, material or whatever you want to call it, destructive power at that moment in time, and they still fought and they still made it. So, and that point of time is a very good example where it shows, yes, you should.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, because even if you are outnumbered, it's very hard to predict, because the weaker force has often prevailed just through good strategy and bravery and
perseverance.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole thing of guerrilla warfare, isn't it? You have a smaller force, you use that to your advantage in certain ways. So I mean, it's yeah. Well, this is interesting. Hassan, did you want to add anything else? Because I think we're going to give this 1 point anyway. But did you want to throw in?
No, nothing else to add. I think I actually think I can see merit in why it's here, and I don't think it's that bad, really.
Yeah. Although I would put a caveat in this. Obviously, if there's any jihadists out there, I do encourage you to flee from the battlefield because of that.
You hypocrite.
Hey, I never said I don't claim to have the perfect morality. I'm not.
Well, in that case, the enemy is more than twice as many.
That was good.
All right, let's. So we're going to give that 1 point. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this is another quite an interesting one here. So, a leader duping his followers and treating them unjustly. Allah Almighty says. Sorry, what was that?
Donald Trump.
Well, this could apply to probably most leaders in history, to be fair. Allah Almighty says there are only grounds against those who wrong people and act as tyrants in this world without any right to do so. Such people will have a painful punishment. Do not consider Allah to be unaware of what the wrongdoers perpetrate. He is merely deferring them to a day on which their sight will be transfixed, rushing headlong, heads back, eyes vacant, hearts hollow. And those who do wrong will know the kind of reversal they will receive. So these are all kind of generic verses from the Quran there. Let me just move down a little bit to the commentary. Was there anything more? They would not restrain one another from the wrong things they did, how evil they were used to do it. I mean, all four of these verses are sort of quite generic about just kind of not bullshitting, I suppose. But anyway, that's a shame actually, because normally the Quran verses gives a bit better context for this. But okay, I think it's still fairly straightforward. We're basically talking about a leader being a tyrant, I suppose, and lying to people and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I could see why that's bad, and I can understand where they're coming from again with this one, but it's just so hypocritical how most of the leaders there in that area just exactly how they are duping their followers and treating them unjustly. And you could say even the Dawah guys, they're doing this to their followers.
Yeah, but that's a good point, because it does. I mean, this could apply not necessarily to say a military leader or a political leader. Could just be a community leader, as we hear a lot about in the Muslim communities here in the UK. Yeah, because we've well, and also as you say, these Dawa guys, we've seen the way Hamza dupes his followers, and then when they call him out on it, just takes the mick out of them. So that's hardly just treatment. But to sort of put it in a more general context, I would say it's ironic with Islam because the system of Sharia is designed to treat people unjustly. I mean, it's designed to treat anyone who's not a Muslim as worse than a Muslim. But as a general command or a general kind of idea of, a sin or maybe what we would consider a criminal act or something like that, I can see the argument for giving this 1 point in that, particularly if you're talking like a political leader or military leader that is treating them unjustly, you could argue if you're preventing them from having their civil rights or something like that, then that should be a kind of crime. I can sort of see this being. I'd certainly give it at least half a point for saying that it's immoral or unethical, and I could see the argument for giving it 1 point to say that potentially this could be criminal acts as well if a leader's acting like this. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
What worries me a bit is the thing here that it says, "Well, don't worry about it. We'll sort it in the end somehow." That I don't understand how that works because you're saying on the one hand, and it's despicable to do this, which would merit a full point. But then it says, well, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. There's going to be justice at some point for those people.
I think it's just like saying that maybe telling people not to try to overthrow their leaders because justice will come to them in the afterlife, so they don't need to worry now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. But I suppose if we're going to be looking at this, the relevance for the modern world, we would have to put it into a kind of more secular context. And I think within the secular context of a leader abusing their power, I would still be tempted to push it towards a 1, even though I agree.
No, I agree. I agree that if you look at 16, the heading, and absolutely, then it warrants a full point because that is despicable and it's terrible and blah, blah, blah. It's just that I'm a little bit confused with the wording of what it says in the Quran there, which seems to belittle it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of these, because I suppose it's not given a specific punishment in this world, is it? So in that sense, it's almost because most of these things they'll talk about the hellfire, but they'll also say there's some
sort of justifying it itself. So on the one hand, it's saying, don't do that, it's terrible. And then on the other hand, it says, well, but don't worry about it.
Because in many of the other cases, there's real world punishments for it, as well as in the afterlife, isn't there? So it's a good point, Stotts. I think it's not enough for me to not give it 1 point. I think I'm still going to look at it in today's context and think that would be reasonable if we're looking at it in the more general thing of a leader abusing their power and abusing their the people who've elected them or their subjects or whatever. I think I'd
give
still
it a
go
full
for
1. It is. Give it to them.
What about you, Ihsan? You on board with that?
I would. I'd give it to them. I'd give it a point here.
Okay, so a slightly begrudging, but earned point. Okay, let's move on.
0.75 now.
Right, let's move on to the next one. Sorry, I think the numbers are all out of whack here. Pride. This includes pride, boasting, conceitedness, haughtiness, and vanity. Allah Almighty says, Musa said, I seek refuge in my Lord from every proud man who does not believe in the day of reckoning. That's Quran 40:27. And he does not love people puffed up with pride. That's Quran 16:23.
That's a tough one.
This is
I take pride in my work.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, that's a good point. First of all, is pride always a bad thing? Now, I know kind of biblically and Quranically, it's pride is considered a sin. For me, it depends on context. As I say, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking pride in your work or being proud of your family members or your friends and stuff like that. I mean, certainly pride can be destructive if it leads to these other emotions that it's talking about, haughtiness, vanity, boasting and that kind of thing. So it has a potential, but for me, I certainly wouldn't say it's a crime of any kind. that would be way too over the top. And I'm not even sure to give it half a point, because to say that it's always immoral, I'm not even sure I could give it a quarter of a point, really, to say maybe sometimes it's immoral or unethical, because I just think it's...
Yeah, but like you said, it's context dependent.
Yeah, but even in most contexts, though, I'm not sure I could raise it above 0, because at the end of the day, it's not pride itself, it's what pride might lead to. And that's a little bit like technology. It depends what you use it for. So I think intrinsically, I don't see there's anything unethical about pride.
No, I don't. I think I can imagine somebody being, just say, proud of their work. You know, someone celebrating a goal, taking off their shirt and running around. I can understand why that would be like. Sometimes it can be inspiring to when people can see what others' achievements are. So,
but on the other hand, if you the vanity part, like some women, just because they're good looking, they go around and sort of present themselves as though they were in charge of this. No, they didn't do anything. It's just biology. So,
well, to be fair, men do that as well. Stops. Let's.
Okay.
I mean, look at the Andrew Tates of this world. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's actually true. Yeah. Okay, so people who don't have any reason to still do, and then it is, in my eyes, immoral. There's no real reason to do so.
Yeah, see, again, for me, I think it's more that pride can lead to other things which are negative.
No, I get your point. Yeah. Okay, so should we give it a point? No.
I'd say a big fat 0 for this one. It's on. What, are you going for 0?
I'll give it a 0. Yeah.
Because pride in itself is not automatically bad in any aspect. Yeah. Okay,
I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with pride.
No, that's a good way of arguing it. Yeah.
Okay, next, perjury. Right, Allah Almighty says, those who do not hear false witness, bear false witness. I really should have got a PDF where it wasn't in these hard-to-read italics. Maybe I'll have to change it for the next one. Right, those who do not bear full witness, beg your pardon, 2572 in the Quran. Yeah, I mean, perjury, so it's... I suppose again, this depends. If you're talking in a legal context, which I suppose this is, isn't it? Essentially, bearing full witness. You're talking about stepping up in terms of, testifying that somebody is committed a crime or not. You think they did. I think, if you lie under oath, that would certainly be a crime and should be, because you are playing with somebody else's life. They could get a prison sentence, hell, they could get a death sentence potentially. So lying in front of your jury, I would definitely give it a point.
What if you're protecting someone else?
Again, we're talking general stops rather than these kind of fringe. I think.
No.
I mean, it's fair. No, it's fair enough. It's fair. Yeah, obviously there will be occasions when you can I mean, then again, it would still be a crime, but you could understand why they did it more than it doesn't make it a crime. But I think if you're just talking more generally about bearing false witness, just say you lied about someone down the pub or something. I would certainly say, generally speaking, that's probably going to be an unethical thing to do. So I might be considered to give it half or a quarter. But I think I think this is mainly talking about kind of in a legalistic term. I think is that how you guys are reading it?
That's what I would do. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like, because perjury is a crime, so I can understand again, where they're coming from here. So even though this is a religious issue here, in non-religious societies, it's a crime. So, and I agree with it being a crime. So I'd have to give it a point here.
Yeah, I think it translates fairly well into the modern age to say you shouldn't be lying in a court where there could be legal penalties for somebody who's innocent based on the lies that you're telling. I think it's quite reasonable in the modern day to call that a crime, and we do call it a crime. So, bloody hell, another point for Islam. They're doing quite well this week.
I just realised we're doing really good dawah here.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is the thing. When I first started this, I thought people would just think, oh, you're just going to use this as an excuse to have a go at Islam or something. But they're actually, we're making Islam look pretty good here tonight.
Well, all right. But let's be sure this is not our selection, okay? This is somebody else's selection who also already sort of pre-selected it.
All right, but they're gonna lose out on this one because it's drinking alcohol, number 19. Now, Allah Almighty says, "You who believe wine and gambling, stone altars, and divining arrows are filth from the handiwork of Shaitan. Avoid them completely, so that perhaps you will be successful. Shaitan wants to stir up enmity and hatred between you by means of wine and gambling, and to debar you from remembrance of Allah from the prayer. So you get so drunk you can't even remember Allah. Will you not give them up?" And that's Quran 590 to 91.
That's not what it says in the Quran.
Is it not? Is that misquoted?
No, that's an interpretation.
Okay, all right. Well, look, I mean, this was just a PDF. There's loads of these online, and I just picked kind of one which I thought, because they had all these Quranic verses, I just thought it'd be better to use this. But can you talk specifically about what is different about that?
Well, I'll just give you one example. It doesn't say wine; it says khamr. The khamr is just something that covers. Okay, so it can be a curtain, it can be a tablecloth, it can be something that covers your brain. Now, what covers your brain? From there you go and start interpreting, because something that covers your brain can be something like alcohol, can be something like drugs, can be whatever. So there's lots of things that can be covering something. So this is all down to interpretation. So the word alcohol is not in the Quran. It doesn't say prohibiting. It doesn't do anything about that. It just says that you should avoid it. And it doesn't say at all costs. It just says avoid the handiwork of Satan. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't say that wine and gambling is the handiwork of Satan. It just says just avoid the handiwork of Satan and wine, and it doesn't say gambling either. Again, it's just interpretation.
Okay, no, fair enough. But for the purpose of this, and obviously the Hadiths will say a lot of stuff against
yeah, exactly. This is where
and it is recognised that the orthodox position in Islam is that alcohol is banned. So yeah, there are some fringe Muslim sects.
Well, no, it also says that alcohol is a good thing for you.
Yeah, at the start, I think, aren't they supposed to be abrogated?
No, it's not at the start. You see, okay. I recommend everybody read the translation of Murad, Saint Murad, because he gives you a translation not based on the Islamic narrative, because the Islamic narrative says because there's no fa or thumma or anything like that, like after this or after. No, there's no sequence in how you're supposed to read them. They are independent sentences in the Quran, the same as with the wife beating. It doesn't say first do this and then do this and only then do you beat them. No, those are independent actions, the same as with the alcohol. Of course, they're interpreting it this way. Of course, they're trying to make it sound like a sequence. Well, try and stay away. It's bad if you pray if you're drunk. And then, as it gets progressively worse, and then it ends up here in sentence 91, where it says, don't do it. And that's how they're trying to sell it to you. But this is propaganda. This is just marketing.
Well, look, we're going to proceed from the point of view that it is considered a sin in Islam, despite Stott's giving a detail.
Yeah. Whether it's factual or not is a different story. Absolutely.
Well, is there anything factual in the Quran? Let's not open that fucking can. Right. So drinking alcohol, from my point of view, there's intrinsically nothing immoral about drinking alcohol. Now, I would say there are potential negative consequences, certainly if you're doing something like driving, you shouldn't obviously do it then. And if you're operating heavy machinery or any kind of responsibility situation, drinking alcohol could potentially be negative in terms of your ethical behavior. And you could certainly argue that there are health consequences, particularly if you're binge drinking and stuff like that. So, but that is more personal rather than, I would say, an ethical issue.
Yeah.
So I think while in certain circumstances, yes, you could argue you shouldn't drink alcohol and it would be immoral, intrinsically, again, I don't think there's any basis for this one.
Well, it's what we had just now, where we said the fact in itself is not, it just leads to the consequence could be. And this is the same thing here.
Yeah, so it's all about personal responsibility, isn't it? You
like if I drink a glass of champagne for New Year's Eve, what the fuck? I mean, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Or even two. Yeah, so it's on. Any dissenting opinion from you on this?
No, I'll go with you on this. I don't think it's immoral.
What about when you were still a Muslim, Misan? Did you ever sneak a little tipple?
I did, yeah, sometimes, yeah.
So even as a Muslim, it wasn't a big thing back then. Okay, fair enough.
No, not to me, it wasn't.
I think that's true of quite a lot of Muslims from my experience.
Just think there's a huge difference between theory and practice. Come on.
Oh,
what I
absolutely.
experience in the Middle East, come on. Why do you think a stewardess in a private airline suddenly has a Snow White Range Rover parked outside her door? Do you think this is because she served the orange juice or the tea with amazing grace?
Oh yeah, I did think that. I'm so naive, damn it.
Yeah.
All right, so a 0 for that one. Let's move on to number 20, which I've just managed to
Yeah,
skip
same thing.
past. We are talking about gambling, which is the big thing we came in with. So Allah Almighty, he says on this one, oh, you believe wine? I think this is the same one, isn't it? 590 to 91.
Yeah,
so
91,
I'm not going to
yeah.
bother reading that again, because then Stops will just tell me that it doesn't actually say gambling or something. So,
Correct. It says divining arrows. I mean, what the fuck is that?
I did come across that. That might be a conversation for another time, because I did come. I wondered what that meant, but I did come across something that explained it. But anyway, so gambling.
I think it's to do with things like astrology and all of those black magic type things.
It's like betting on things, because
it's like with a divining rod.
You know,
it's like with a divining rod or something. But anyways, let's just get on to gambling here. Ihsan, you go ahead. What do you think on this one?
It's like the alcohol thing, whereby it's it's fun on a personal level at low level, and only when it's big and when it's done in excess that it's a problem. So I'd say it's the thing on its own. I wouldn't give it any points, because it's a personal thing. Just gambling on its own. It's only when it's taken to excess.
Yeah, Stops. What do you think?
Same.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where I was slightly more conflicted on, because I think that it's certainly not a crime, or shouldn't be a crime, and I don't think it is intrinsically unethical. But I think that it is. You could argue maybe sometimes it's unethical, and simply because. Actually, you know what? I'm just rethinking back what I was thinking before, and actually, no, I think it does come down to personal responsibility. I was going to say things like, well, you could end up gambling your children's life savings away that you were saving up so you could send them, but then that's personal responsibility, isn't it? Exactly. At the end of the day, it's not the gambling; it's how you're gambling is the thing that may be unethical. So intrinsically, if you choose to do the lottery or to go to a casino and use your money, and you're not using anyone else's, you hear that, Hamza? Then I think you're right. I think you know what? I think I was tempted to maybe give it a 1/4 point just on a personal level, because I can't really see the point of gambling, but that doesn't actually make it unethical. I know people enjoy doing it, whereas for me, I can understand like having some wine and getting a bit drunk and enjoying yourself. For me, gambling has never had much of an appeal, but I realise that's a crappy argument to try and say that it's unethical. So, I think I just realised my own bias. So, I would go with you guys and give this a big fat 0 as well.
And look what they write there: chess. Since when is chess gambling?
I suppose if you bet on it, it could be, but intrinsically, it's not a gambling game, is it? Yeah,
exactly. And they compare it with backgammon. Come on, you can't.
So we've got another 0. So we're bringing Islam back down to earth after it had a strong start here. Here's the last one, which is a really bizarre one: slandering chaste women.
Okay,
this is the last immoral. One for tonight.
No, it's the hypocrisy, because you get this a lot. Come on, a guy who sleeps around is a Casanova. The girl that sleeps around is a slut. I mean, this is the way that it works. It's very unfair. It's unjust. It's horrible. It's terrible. I hate it. But that's a lot of societies have this.
Well, let's see what Allah has to say about it. Let me just quickly read the Quranic verse, and then Ihsan, if you want to cut in. Sure. So those who accuse women who are chaste, so again, not unchaste women, apparently, it doesn't matter about them, but who are believers and not aware, are cursed in this world and the next world, and they will have a great punishment in the day when their tongues and hands and feet will testify against them about what they were doing. Their feet will testify? That's Quran 24, 23 to 24. Although you notice it says we're only talking about the believers here, so it's fine to slander non-Muslim women. The next verse is those who make accusations against chaste women and then do not produce 4 witnesses, flog them with 80 lashes and never again accept them as witnesses. Such people are deviators, and that's Quran 24, 4. So yeah, Ihsan, sorry, you were going to go ahead and say something.
Yeah, I think superficially it sounds, honourable about not slandering women, and but when you think that there are people who you can have sex slaves and do all this, it's just pure hypocrisy. And I wouldn't give it a single point because of the hypocrisy.
Yeah, I think the basic idea of slandering someone, whether that be a woman or anybody else, is potentially, I would say it's unethical, and potentially it could be illegal as well, depending on the nature of the slander. But we do have laws against it. But slandering chaste women, the way this is sort of narrowed down to say that the only women who are worthy of not being slandered are Muslim ones, and chaste Muslim ones at that, suggests to me that this is, it's the hypocrisy of it. It's kind of like this selective treatment that just makes me think, this doesn't have value. If it was slander in general, I could give it half a point, maybe a point. But as it says, slandering chaste women, I would give this 0, because it's basically saying if you're a good little virgin Muslim woman who is, doing what you're told, then that's fine. If you're any other kind of woman, fuck it, doesn't matter. We can say what we like about you, call you a slag or whatever, and that's fine. And so, yeah, I think because of the selective nature of this, I would probably give it a 0.
Do you want to know the background to this whole thing?
Please, yes, please tell us.
Because it's about adultery. What happens is, if somebody says, I saw your wife having sex with somebody else, you can't just say this. You have to provide 4 witnesses who actually saw, and now it gets quite technical, because it needs to have more than the tip entering before it can be considered adultery. And you need to have 4 witnesses to show this. If you don't have this, you are not allowed to call this woman an adulteress. And this is how technical and precise Islam gets in situations like these. The problem is that anyone can accuse, like the husband can accuse the wife of being an adulteress and say, you have had sex outside of marriage. And then she can say, well, can you produce your witnesses? No, you can't. Well, then shut up. And he says, okay, I will say this 4 times. And now I have provided 4 witnesses, and now you are an adulteress. And then on the other hand, then it goes the other way, because then she can go and say, no, it is not true. Well, can you provide 4 witnesses? Yes, I will say it 4 times, and now I also produce 4. So the situation is ludicrous, what they are doing here. So they came up with the sentence here, slandering chaste women. If you cannot fully provide any kind of evidence that this woman has had outside marital sex, shut up. That's all it does.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I think it started when there were some allegations against Aisha, and there were only 3 witnesses. So Muhammad wanted a way out, just said, oh, you have to provide 4. So just to let her off any of those allegations.
So this is, it's ridiculous. The whole story in my eyes is ridiculous. It doesn't warrant a point. It doesn't do anything.
See, funnily enough, the way you've described that to me, though, Stops, is that I'm almost tempted to give this a quarter now. And
because you are making false accusations.
Yeah, I know this wasn't your intention, but in a weird way. Because
I didn't have an intention. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context.
No, but I mean, you think it's worth 0 points, and I did until you started talking, and now, and the reason is because specifically what you're saying there. Many of these 70 sins are kind of almost they're like subversions of a bigger sin. So, for example, you get 3 or 4 of them that are essentially about stealing, but they're about very kind of specific kinds of stealing, like we saw last week with the taking property from orphans. I mean, that's a kind of stealing, isn't it? So you could have 70 different sins that are all about stealing, and you say, well, yeah, okay, well, that makes Islam 100% relevant. But if you're just doing these little subcategories, it sort of skews it a bit. But it in that light, I'm thinking, well, if this is just a subcategory of slander, and I agree that slander is wrong, then should I really be giving this a quarter of a point now? I'm really not sure.
For me, it's just coming up with a story. You're not happy with something, and you just come and say, well, she cheated on me, so I want to leave her, talak, because I think she was, like doing something that she wasn't supposed to. And that's it. And so they said, well, actually, you need to be more precise. So this whole thing is again, it's a personal thing, and it's at the end of the day, you can't do anything with it, because you can't slander a chaste woman. Because if she is not doing anything, if she's staying in the house, she's staying with the husband, and then she's only going to the shops or something, there's no reason to do that. So
yeah, but it is, you are still talking in a legal sense, though, aren't they? They're talking about producing witnesses and things like this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I understand your point now. What you are, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm understanding you saying is that it's not the act, it's not the fact that something happened, but it's the fact that you are slandering somebody by saying something that is not true. And that is the one that should deserve the half quarter point.
Yeah, because particularly in I mean, see, but then this is the other complication, because in Islam, this could potentially have legal ramifications, because if you are accused of adultery, there's quite
you see, there's a point. It doesn't.
But then, in the modern
context, I gave you the point. It doesn't.
Yeah, because in secular context, adultery is not a crime. So it's damn it. This is I'm really not sure now. Maybe
because I should. On the one hand, you can say, well, yeah, she did, and then she says, no, I didn't. And then this is exactly what Isan was saying. If you don't have four, I mean, how the hell are you going to come up with four witnesses who all peered through the window and saw what was happening?
I think I'm hovering between 0 and a quarter point on this one, and I'm not sure where to land.
It's on 1.12 now.
Hell no, I'm adding no more categories, because it will just get ridiculously complicated, and then we'll have to go back and look at the previous one. So no, I'm not doing that. All right,
I find this is ridiculous. I think this is ridiculous. It doesn't
work.
It's a 0? It doesn't work in practice, and that is why it's a 0. If I look at the legal point of view, that somebody says something that is wrong, which follows the perjury sort of reasoning, then by all means it should have a quarter. Yeah.
Isam, what do you think?
I'd give it 0, just because of the hypocrisy of, with all the sex slaves and all that.
Yeah. Well, look, okay, then you both relieve me of a problem then, because it doesn't matter what I go for. I'm going to be. I am so glad. You see, you can tell I thought this through, didn't you? I knew this kind of thing would come up. This is where you have to have 3 people doing this. It's a priority. Right, so we're going to go for 0 on that, with a slight wavering for me, but yeah, we're going to give that another 0. So I think that's the last one for this week. So how many points did we give? I think they got picked up 3 points, maybe 4 points. I'll have to go back and check them, but I think this is the best week for Islam so far. It's 3 or 4 points they picked up tonight, so almost 50% relevant, maybe about 50% relevant today. So
but what does that make Allah? Does that make Allah all omniscient and all wise and all this and all that? Nah.
It makes him all fallible, I would say.
Yeah, best, correct.
But, yeah, so I think that's it, and this has been good fun tonight. So I've enjoyed this one, because it's sort of forced me to think a little bit more. So let me remove this. Oh shit! Sorry, I just accidentally. Oh dear! Sorry, I just accidentally removed this on. Sorry, it's on. Hang on.
No more drink for you.
So no, I haven't. I swear to. Sorry, Hassan. Sorry about that. I have not had anything to drink apart from Pepsi Max tonight. That is all.
Okay, no smokes for you either.
Right. But what I was trying to do is remove the actual that, so we can get big on the screen. That's better. So
it's age, Drastic. It's age.
Oh God, I'm not even that old. I mean, I suppose I'm getting there, but anyways, I don't feel old, but obviously my body is telling me otherwise. Anyways, yeah, that was good fun. So summary tonight, guys. I mean, what do we think of Hamza, the Hadith, the sins this week in general? What do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's quite revelatory, certainly, when you look at Hamza, and it's good that he's being exposed and more people are seeing him for what he is.
Yeah, I agree. He taken like Mohammed Hijab, who we covered last week with the whole spare wife girlfriend thing in the hotel. Just like he's taken a battering over that, Hamza has taken a real battering for this, and he's not as high profile as Mohammed Hijab, but he is still a pretty major fixture on the Dawa scene. So anytime one of these guys gets just crucified for their total hypocrisy, I think that's a good day for the rest of the world, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm yeah.
Also, speaking of Mohammed Hijab, because it's not an area that I knew that much about, the theological stuff. Actually, I put a video on my channel where I wrote a rap song, and I rapped to the lyrics of. I rapped to the story of Mohammed Hijab.
I was going to mention that as a closing, Hassan. I was going to say, I was going to mention your channel again, which is Evolution Facts with Hassan, and I'm going to list you as a feature channel on here so people know where to find you.
Evolution, how does that go together?
He does Dawa debunks, basically, but with a particular focus on scientific.
I'll tell you what happened. It was quite a story, and I go from.
Yeah, so Hassan's got a burgeoning new music career here as a Dawa takedown sort of spoken word rapper. So go and check his channel out.
Have you got the beats to it, or the background beats?
Well, no, it was good. I caught it yesterday, and it did give me a laugh. So yeah, well done for that. Stops. What are your final thoughts tonight?
Okay, I'm sorry. Islam does not make sense. It doesn't belong in the 21st century, regardless of whether they manage to get 1 or 2 points, which are still valid today. But it doesn't make sense. Islam doesn't give you anything. There's nothing new about it. All the stuff that you get there is old stuff from the Sumerians, from the Babylonians, from the Egyptians, from blah blah. So I'm sorry. The more I look into it, the less I'm impressed.
Yeah, and you've been looking into it a long time, so you must be the least impressed person with Islam on the planet. Yeah, I think Islam had a better week, but as you say, they're really kind of pointing out stuff that's kind of obvious. It was obvious before Islam, it's been obvious since Islam, and you don't need Islam to get it. But to be fair, this is Islam's best performing week so far in the relevant morality stake, so I will acknowledge that. And I look forward to next week because we get into stealing, several kinds of stealing and various others. So I just need to find another Dawa apologist who's fucked up.
It's Hamza again.
Sorry?
It's Hamza again.
Yeah, we could just play that same video again, couldn't we? But I'll try and find something new. Anyways, I think we'll wrap it up there, gentlemen. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat tonight who left comments. Appreciated that. And somebody also subscribed tonight, which was very nice, and told us in the chat. So thanks everyone for turning up and listening to us. Have a laugh, and we will see you next week for more of this. Until then, good night.
Thank you. Bye.